Now let's go to Drew Lankford with the Virginia Beach Public Works and someone who also worked closely with the mayor. Drew is on the phone right now. Drew?
How are you doing?
Hi, thanks for joining us this midday.
Sure.
Drew, Andy here. You were a dear, much more than just Public Works spokesperson. You were a dear and treasured friend to her. You worked with her politically. You were, in great respect, a confidant of sorts. Tell us about your friendship with Meyera Oberndorf.
Well, it was unusual in some sense because when we first got to know each other, we were kind of on opposite sides of the political fence as far as a couple of issues and campaigns and all. But it took me a little while, but you finally realized that she would come up and talk so sweetly and all, but she was no pushover. We used to kid that she was an iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove. And she could really, more than anybody I've seen in public life or political life, she really understood what it meant to get out here and be with people and understand what they wanted and what they didn't like, and they would. They'd come up upset with her on occasion or upset about an issue and all, and she would keep her composure and talk to them, and she'd have them as a close friend in 30 minutes. But I think she really had perfected a lost art now, it seems, and that was to get out here and really listen to people and talk to them and go to their Little League opening, go to their barbecue, go to their Eagle Scout ceremony, read to their third grade class, show up for their bar mitzvah. We've joked that anybody who planned anything in Virginia Beach for 30 years always knew to have a chair there for Meyera. There was always going to be a excellent chance she was going to show up. And I mean, you could see her at events late at night, and the next morning, 6 o'clock, she's at a ceremony or a breakfast at Oceana or in one of the civic leagues. She was passionate about this city. She was passionate about the people, as Andy's mentioned here several times. And I mean, she would take an issue and be very open about it, whether it was her battle with breast cancer, Alzheimer's, other people and their issues. If she was your friend, she was your friend for life.
Drew, let me ask you this: when we're talking about the bare knuckle issues of politics and everything, how did she handle, from your own observations, the unsavoriness of what politics sometimes had to become, getting tough and everything?
Well, I think that some of us were talking last night. I think that's what made her and Roger such a great political team. Roger he was quick to her defense. He always understood that he accepted that unsavoriness, I think, a little more than she did, but he was always the kind to sit there and say, okay, here's how you respond, be tough and all that, and yet she could kind of smooth the rough edges of whatever Roger's vice might have been. So they were an outstanding political team. And I think she grew into it, and she'll be the first to tell you. But, I mean, a lot of it she had to deal with from day one. One of her favorite stories was about starting to get involved with politics after she served on the library board and meeting with some of the political honchos of the time, going out to one of the steakhouses and sit down with them. And they told her, said, we think you're doing great work and we love having you around, but, it's not quite time for a Jewish lady to be serving on city council. And she said, well, I really appreciate your advice. That's very kind of you. And she walked out of the room and went straight down to City Hall and filed her papers to run for city council. She didn't let them bully her. She didn't let anybody fluster her. She could keep her composure and just, once she had it in her mind, this was the right thing to do, she was not going to be swayed. So she didn't let a lot of the unseemliness and some of the things that could be the rough edges of politics. It might upset her internally, but she kind of didn't let it get to her too much. She certainly didn't let it keep her from her goal of doing accomplishing what it was she wanted to accomplish.
Hey, Drew, I think you summed it up pretty well when you repeated that often mentioned description, iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove. Thank you very much for joining us, Drew Lankford, with the City of Virginia Beach.
Yeah, that really was stunning what he said, that she decided to run when someone said it was not time for a Jewish woman to run. Now it's time to run, and that's the way she was. She was tough. She got in there. She won. And as we talked earlier, she didn't need advertising money because everyone knew her and they were with her, and that's why she kept on winning.